On the 1st of September 1939, Germany invaded Poland and the Second World War had begun. 2 days later, the British and the French declared war on Germany. But when the Soviets invaded Poland from the east on the 17th of September, the Allies did nothing. Why? Let's discuss. Good to have you back on the channel. My name is Stefan, I'm a Dutch history teacher and I love to drink coffee and making videos about history. I'm just out of coffee, so if you want to support me and my endeavors making history videos and all that, you can buy me a coffee via buymeacoffee.com. And if you're interested in this content, subscribe and also hit that notification bell. When Hitler rose to power in 1933, tensions in Europe rose. Now, Britain and France were not keen on waging war against Germany again. Yes, they did proclaim victory in 1918 during the First World War, but victory came at a cost. Many soldiers died in the war to end all wars, as the First World War was called in the beginning, and therefore there was no war enthusiasm when the Second World War broke out in 1939. The year before that, Hitler was granted the Sudeten area, and shortly after, the Germans annexed the remaining Czech lands as Slovakia became a Nazi puppet state. The Allies, France and Britain, declared that if Germany would invade Poland, they would declare war on Germany. But what exactly were the agreements that were made by Britain and France with the Poles? Already in February 1921, a political alliance between France and Poland was signed. It can be described as a defensive alliance in case one of the two countries became a victim of an unprovoked attack. In May 1939, a new alliance was signed, a military convention that was signed in Paris. A link was formed between the Polish and the French military. But do notice this was a military alliance, not a political one. The French proposed an invasion of Germany if the Germans dared to attack Poland. But technically the French were not obligated to come to Poland's aid in case of war. Regarding the British, it was another story. On August 25th, 1939, the United Kingdom and Poland signed an agreement of mutual assistance. In effect, this meant that the UK and France, which had a separate agreement with Poland, would come to the defense of Poland in case of military aggression by a foreign power. And whereas the French specifically named Germany as a potential aggressor, the British spoke of hostilities with a European power. And what the British hoped was to deter Germany from a potential invasion of its eastern neighbor. In a secret protocol, the British assured Poland to come to its aid in case of a German attack. When Poland got into conflict with another European power, the British and the Poles had to consult together on what common measures would be taken. Germany approached the Soviet Union in May 1939. Hitler was planning to attack Poland but wasn't entirely sure he could get away with it. In other words, the British and the French intervening. In July, political negotiations about the affairs of Eastern Europe were started. In early August, Nazi Foreign Affairs Minister Joachim von Ribbentrop offered the Soviets a settlement for the area from the Baltic to the Black Sea. The Soviets were interested. See, many of these regions had previously belonged to the Tsarist Empire but were lost after the Russian Revolution and the subsequent Civil War. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, also known as the Hitler-Stalin Pact, was signed on the 23rd of August 1939. It was a strange act in history, where two opposed ideologies made a pact. Now, to what extent communism and National Socialism have differences is interesting because there's also many similarities because of its totalitarian nature. But that was not the main reason the pact was signed. It was a typical case of pragmatism trumping ideology. On the 23rd of August, Joachim von Ribbentrop landed in Moscow. I read that the airport was decorated with Nazi flags that were previously used in anti-Nazi Soviet propaganda films. Von Ribbentrop was escorted to the Kremlin and was surprised he met Stalin himself, who spoke to him the following words: "It's been a lovely shoving match, has it not?" The negotiations followed. The part of non-aggression was quickly agreed upon. The secret protocol about how to divide Eastern Europe took a bit longer. Much was agreed upon except for Latvia, which both nations wanted to have. Von Ribbentrop consulted Hitler for giving Latvia to the Soviets, and Hitler replied, "Yes, agreed. At 2 o'clock in the morning, the documents were ready. Molotov signed for the Soviet Union, Ribbentrop for Germany. 2 hours later, Hitler was notified at Berchtesgaden. Champagne was ordered, and Hitler, a non-drinker, sipped a little. German delight was impossible to conceal. "Now Europe is mine," Hitler is said to have cried out on hearing the news. On the 1st of September 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland. After the Gleiwitz incident, a false flag attack perpetrated by the SS, the battleship Schleswig-Holstein fired its first shot on the Polish garrison at Westerplatte. Poland was simultaneously invaded from the north and the west. By a swift and ruthless advance, German warplanes in the air and armored units on the ground smashed through the Polish lines. The Allies, Britain and France, demanded the Germans to withdraw, and when that went unheard, they declared war on Germany on the 3rd of September. Despite the valiant Polish resistance, the German war machine advanced through the country. On the 7th of September 1939, the French began with their invasion of Germany, first with reconnaissance units, then with infantry units. The Saar offensive had begun. The French advanced cautiously into Germany. By the 12th of September, the French had seized a dozen of German towns and villages. They then advanced to the Siegfried Line. The French pounded the line with their artillery without much success. The French and the British then consulted each other on what to do. Poland was going to fall. That seemed to be imminent. The full invasion of Germany had to be continued a week later, they planned, but Poland's demise was hastened by the Soviet Red Army invading Poland from the east on the 17th of September 1939. Poland's eastern borders weren't that well protected, as the bulk of the Polish army was fighting the Germans in the west. Therefore, the Soviets advanced quickly. The excuse the Soviets used for their invasion was that they wanted to protect non-Polish people in the Second Polish Republic. Now, this was obviously nonsense, but what is true is that many non-Poles lived in the eastern parts of Poland, and the Soviets capitalized on this. In eastern Poland, the population was about 43% Polish, 33% Ukrainian, and 8% each Jewish and Belarusian, with a small number of Czechs, Germans, Russians, Roma, Tatars, and others. When the Soviets advanced into Poland, the French started to withdraw from the German Saarland. They saw Poland as a lost cause. Besides, with Poland gone, the German and Soviet state bordered each other, and the Germans would need much troops to defend it if it would have come to a clash with the Soviets. It wouldn't help anyone to declare war on the USSR at this point. The British response was one of caution. Sir William Seas, British ambassador to the Soviet Union, noted the following: "On the other hand, the Soviet invasion of Poland is not without advantages to us in the long run, for it will entail the keeping of a large army on a war footing outside Russia, consuming food and petrol and wearing out material and transport, thus reducing German hopes of military or food supplies. Moreover, German-Soviet close contact should lead to a desirable friction." The British looked at the long-term effects. With the Nazis and the Soviets now bordering each other, it would be a matter of time before they would turn on each other. And when that happened, the Soviet Union could be a powerful ally against Nazi Germany. Eventually, this scenario played out. The most simple reason why the French and the British did not declare war on the USSR was due to the fact that they didn't have to. Britain and France saw Nazi Germany as a primary aggressor and a main threat to European stability. Hitler's invasion of Poland triggered the war, and their strategy was to focus on Germany first rather than opening another front against the Soviet Union. At that time, the Allies were not fully prepared for war, even against Germany. Declaring war on both Germany and the Soviet Union would have stretched their military resources even thinner and would likely have been disastrous. It would also have solidified the alliance between Germany and the Soviets, further complicating the conflict for the Allies. Some British and French officials believed that the USSR could eventually become a valuable ally against Nazi Germany. They hoped that as the situation evolved, Stalin might break away from the pact with Hitler. In short, the Allies saw Germany as the main aggressor rather than the Soviet Union, and chose not to engage the USSR in battle, partly out of pragmatism, partly out of the hopes for a future alliance. British policy was not to push Stalin into any closer relationship with Hitler, but to work carefully to maintain diplomatic and trade contacts with Moscow until such time as the Nazi-Soviet pact should disintegrate by virtue of its own internal contradictions. In fact, there was a certain congruence between Soviet and British policy during this period. Both were at pains to avoid war with the other and keep avenues of communication open. After Germany completed the conquest of Poland, the Polish people were subjected to Nazi terror that would claim the lives of millions. For the civilians ending up east of the Molotov-Ribbentrop line, terror laid ahead. The people from eastern Poland, as well as the Baltic states, Bessarabia and northern Bukovina, suffered from Soviet terror. For them, a grim future laid ahead. A future in prisons, a future in torture chambers, a future in labor camps, or no future at all, as many met their fate at the deathbeds at the hands of Stalin's NKVD. If you want to learn more about the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, click here and click here for my video about the Soviet occupation of Eastern Poland. Thanks for watching, see you later.